So, this is what happens when you launch a campaign. Is that a question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But this is what happens when you launch a campaign, right? I might actually split this up into two parts. So then that was really targeting the funnel, but let's talk about the actual campaign life cycle, okay? Let's put campaign life cycle. Okay. So what happens is when you launch a campaign, even if you've done good reverse engineering and you spied on competitors and whatnot, when you initially launch it, you're going to be launching it usually with the premise that you want to find out what works. So you don't want to go too narrow. Okay. So even if you can see that your competitors advertising very widely on just one specific carrier, right? You might not just want to specifically just target that carrier because you might get traffic very slowly. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to have semi-broad targeting, but not too broad. Okay, where you're just spending so much money you just can't keep up with yourself. Okay, so don't just target every single geographical location and every single device. Well, you can do every single device, but not every single geographical location, not every single site. Generally speaking, there are some exceptions, and sometimes I do run that. If I am planning to use redirects, right, to basically redirect specific countries to specific offers, it's a bit more advanced. And there are some exceptions where with native ads, for example, you have to kind of target every single website in the inventory and then filter down to the websites that do work, okay? So that's kind of like the exception. But generally speaking, if I can target one site per campaign, I would, okay? And I definitely want you guys to even write that down. Target one site per campaign, okay? Because you want, okay, I'm gonna get into that in a separate video, but let's talk about the campaign life cycle, okay? Because this is very important. So when you initially run your campaign, let's say for example on day one, what's going to happen is you're not going to see like 500% ROI, 1000% ROI on day one, okay? It doesn't usually happen. Most of the campaigns that you run, they might be losing money. So you might be negative 50% ROI, okay? So let's just put negative 50% ROI. And the reason that it's going to be like that is because yes, you're going to have some good stuff within your campaign that's making you the money, that's bringing you the conversions, but you've also got a lot of bad stuff and you haven't refined out the bad stuff, okay? And you just have to deal with the fact that you're gonna lose money. And this is gonna be a hypothetical example. It might not happen on day one, it might be like day 3, you're still on negative 50% ROI. It might be more than this, it might be less than this, but use this as like a guideline of what you should be doing and the kind of mind state, right, you should be having. Now, when it comes to day 1, what you're going to notice is there's going to be some specific variables within the campaign that are going to be like anomalies, okay? And there's going to be some specific variables within your campaign that are going to be doing relatively well for you, and some might even be doing really good for you. But it's kind of too early to test, usually on day 1, unless you're using a very high volume traffic source, okay? Where you're able to spend thousands of dollars per day. Then you can pretty much start this process on day 1. But generally speaking, for newbies, let's say for example, if you're spending maybe a couple $100 per day on advertising, or even a couple, maybe $50, $100 a day, it's going to be too early for you to really test or pause anything on day 1. Okay, so I usually let things run for a day or so to really get some good data. So by day 2, you never know, things might even be worse. Okay, so let's say you're at negative 60% ROI or negative 70% ROI. Okay, just do 65% ROI. Now this is where panic happens, okay? This is where most people stop, they pause the campaign and they're like, forget this, internet marketing doesn't work, okay? And oftentimes a lot of people, they don't really get past the first week because they start to get emotional about money. And one thing you guys have to understand is when it comes to CPA marketing, you have to read numbers. You can't read emotion, okay? Money and these numbers, they don't care about your emotion, they don't care about your position, they don't care about anything, they just care about money and money out, and they just care about math, okay? So you have to be relatively good at math to be able to, and relatively stable with your emotions to not pour stuff too prematurely where it can't really run the course of time. And what you could find is that day 1, it might just be a day of the week that your campaign does really good. Question. Okay, cool. So day 1 might be a day of the week where your campaign does really good, and day 2 might be a day of the week where your campaign does really bad. Okay, so that's why your ROI might dip. Okay. But don't see it as your campaign is bad, because day 3 might be different. So what happens is I look for, once I've got a decent amount of data, okay, and I'm spending more than 3 times offer payout on my variables, like my banners or my landing pages, I start to look for some specific anomalies within my campaign. So for example, right, I might have some, let's say, if you were to open up your reports and you are running on native ad traffic, you're going to be running loads of ads in the inventory. So like Forbes.com, Inc.com, HuffingtonPost.com, loads of websites, okay? And you might find that there's some websites that your click-through rate on your landing page is just way off of your average, okay? And your tracking is going to show you your average stats, okay, between all of the websites that you're advertising on. So once you actually look at your averages, if you start to see that your average click-through rate is 20% on your landing page, which means that 1 out of 5 people are clicking on your landing page to see the offer, okay? So if you see that your average is 20%, but you see that there's some specific websites that your click-through rate is like 2%, I kind of see that as something that might just be people that are not responding well to my specific ad and funnel. And if I can see that, then what will happen is I would generally take the decision that maybe my targeting might not be good for that specific site, so I'm going to pause it, okay? Because again, we're looking at targeting and funnel, okay? So what I would do is once I start to really look at my campaign and I've started to gather some decent data, right? So a minimum of 3 to 5 times your offer payout, I might start to pause some anomalies within my campaign. So for example, that might be ads, right? That might be landing pages, but usually I kind of look at maybe some types of targeting options, right? Especially for like native ads, okay, where I'm targeting so many sites in the database. I don't want to be spending too much money on sites that have 2% click-through rate, but my average is 20%, okay? So you just want to kind of gauge it by your average. It might not be conversions at this point because again, it's only day 2, but I look at it by click-through rate, and I'll try and ballpark and pause some of the things that might be sucking up a lot of money, might be getting a lot of clicks, but people are just not responding to my landing page and my ad. Okay, so this process is called pruning. And all pruning is pausing out the anomalies. Now all you guys know what anomalies are, right? Fantastic. So anomalies, for those of you who don't know, are just things that are way outside of the kind of average data range. Okay, so let's say for example average of 20%, something that is like 95% click-through rate might be an anomaly. Something that's really, really low, like 2% click-through rate, might be an anomaly because it's just way outside of our average, okay? You want to have some discretion, but I prune out the anomalies. Now, by doing that, we're going to save a lot of money, and we're going to start to really see stuff that is working, okay? And stuff that is really not working. We're going to really have paused that. So maybe by day 3, we might be at negative 40% ROI with that campaign. So here we're still running 5 landing pages, 5 ads, 2 landing pages, 2 offers. Remember the 5-2-2 formula. But by day 3, right, we've actually saved a lot of the money that we're losing on day 1 and day 2 because of the fact that we've paused out a lot of anomalies. Okay. So what I might start doing at day 3 is start to look at my funnel. And oftentimes I try and not pause too much stuff within my targeting where I limit and restrict the amount of traffic that I have, but I kind of look to make tweaks to my funnel, right, as much as possible. So about day 3, I might start to realize that I've got a good combination of ads, right, and maybe 2 of the ads are just really, really badly performing. So 2 of the ads are doing like negative 60% ROI, while the other 3 ads are doing something like breaking even, might be doing like negative 20% ROI and whatnot. So I might start pausing out some of the bad ads, okay, at this stage. So by day 4, okay, because again, we're really just trying to filter out the bad stuff, we might be at negative 30% ROI for the overall campaign. Okay, this is not day by day, this is going to be the overall campaign. Because again, we're starting to pause out some stuff and we're starting to refine what works. So then by day 4, I would have had maybe a statistically significant amount of data, and I might start to realize that there might be some good ad landing page offer combinations, okay, that might be working really well. Okay, so there might be a specific combination. So individually, the ads might be breaking even, but to a specific landing page. So remember the diagram that we had before, where we had 5 ads and we said that one ad going to one landing page to one offer might be profitable, whereas it might not be profitable in other combinations. Even if the ad individually is doing bad, if I can see a combination of ads, landing page, offer, right, within my funnel that is working, and you can easily do this by just checking the stats inside of Test Easily, for example, and it will show you that. It'll literally show you the best combination of ad, landing page, offer that's doing well. Then I'll just run that, okay, and I'll start to make some split tests, which is basically going to be some variations of the winning ad, okay. So, I mean, I wouldn't multivariate test probably starting at this point, because again, I'm still trying to gather data to see if the campaign is viable. But if I have some split tests and I start to run some split tests on day 4, day 3, or day 2, depending on what it is, with the best ad, landing page, offer combination, then I might be able to improve on the performance of the best combination, okay? So, by day 5, we might be at negative 10% ROI for the overall campaign. So what now happens is I might then do some other stuff to try and improve on the funnel, okay? You can do some simple stuff, okay? Let's say, for example, if we're doing some decent volume on these days, we might be able to basically go to the account manager and say, hey, account manager, is it possible if I can continue the volume to get a small pay bump around the offer? And that pretty much means that if the costs stay constant, then you'll pretty much have higher revenues, okay, from each conversion. And if you can get a pay bump, then that could even just impact your ROI quite, I mean, not really considerably most of the time, but it might be able to impact your ROI a small amount, okay? So by day 5, what I might then do is I might ask for a pay bump. I might then also try and see if one of my split tests, right, is now starting to perform, and the ones that are not trying to perform, I can then pause them, and I might try and make some more split tests, okay? And I might start trying to multivariate test my landing page, okay? And I might even start looking at my targeting and start to identify, are there some specific variables within my targeting that are really good performance? So I might start to realize that Android is actually sucking up a lot of money, and then iPhone is actually making me a lot of money, okay? So what I might do is then I might make a decision to, you know what, let me pause Android, which is negative 80% ROI. Let me just run an iPhone, right, which is plus 60% ROI. So by day 6, by doing all these kind of things, now I start to make a bit of money. So let's say I'm at 20% ROI. So plus 20%, okay? Now we're starting to make back our money, okay? And again, we've pretty much been doing this, and I mean, campaigns don't always happen like this. Sometimes you might even go a bit deeper in the negative, because again, some people are newbies, and when they're starting off, they don't really make the best adjustments. But again, we're just looking at targeting a funnel, targeting a funnel, targeting a funnel. So we're just basically making modifications to our ad. We might be multivariate testing our landing page, right? Testing different combinations of elements on the landing page to improve the conversion rate. And we might be doing some split tests on the ads, ask for pay bumps. And what we can then do is then really start to refine, right, our targeting as well. So for example, we might realize, okay, iPhone traffic is doing really well. Let me see if I can just run iPhone traffic maybe in another geo with my best combination, okay? So then I want to get as much exposure to the elements that I can really see are working. I've got statistically significant data on. I might have some specific carriers that are working really well, okay? And if I can really hone in on my targeting and expand on my targeting, even if I could maybe even adjust my bids a little bit and take maybe, I kind of do this in my campaigns that I'll go into this with another video, but all the stuff that is really bad, I pause. So I've done that in these days. All the stuff that is breaking even, I might take it into a new campaign, but lower the bids. So essentially my revenue amounts will stay the same, but my costs decrease. And if my revenue stays the same, my costs decrease, my profit margins increase, okay? And the stuff that's doing really, really well, so for example, the targeting options that are doing really, really well, I'll basically put that into another campaign, and I'll basically try and max that out, try and scale it up, and try and get as much exposure, right, with those targeting options. So it might be some specific websites, it might be some specific operating systems, it might be some specific devices, countries, geos, whatever it is, okay? So as we're doing all these things, by day 7, right, we might be, let's say for example, a 50% ROI. So plus 50% ROI. And by doing that, we're now making back, right, our money. We're now being able to print money, and then our campaigns are going to be able to produce money again and again and again, just for the reason that we have two things aligned for this whole process, which is, again, our targeting and funnel. And if you have these two things aligned, right, and you're able to create an advertisement campaign that speaks specifically to the buyer or speaks specifically to the person they're trying to get to create the action, and all things are aligned, then what's going to be happening is you're going to create a printing press where literally money just keeps flowing to your bank account, right, day in, day out, 24/7, okay? But again, do not expect on day one to be able to hit huge ROIs. It's a process. And I always say this, that winning campaigns, they're never ever found, they're created. And you really just have to focus and really dial in with your targeting, with your funnel. And if you're not making money, it's gonna be down to your targeting options or your funnel. You just haven't split tested enough or multivariate tested enough. You haven't pruned out what's bad, and you haven't really optimized the things that are working really well with targeting. Or you might just have really, really bad targeting where you're advertising, let's say for example, a weight loss product on something like a website to do with footwear. Okay, and then you might get some conversions, but it's not going to be likely. So you have to really think in the mind of your customer with your campaigns. Okay, so is there any questions when it comes to the stage of your campaigns and anything we discussed so far?
No.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's going to conclude that. Hopefully you guys have a better idea of what to really expect when you launch your campaigns and the kind of process that I go through. I even have, literally, if you guys want to see this, right, like in a step-by-step day-to-day guide, if you guys don't know about this, I actually have a program inside of the academy called the 30 Days to 10K. So if you guys want to see me literally like make a campaign from day 1, day 2, day 3, and I'll literally be showing you guys exactly in the 30 Days to 10K program, exactly what I do personally to make $10,000 in profit within, I mean, it was meant to be within 30 days, but I think I hit it within 18 days. But you'll see it from scratch, literally from day 1, day 2, day 3, my exact pruning process, my exact targeting options, my exact funnel, like everything I was doing. You see everything. So you can pretty much model it for yourself. And we've had some huge successes with it because a lot of people, they literally just stole my campaign and then they started making thousands of dollars per day with their campaigns. But I would definitely use the mindset, right, that I was in, as opposed to just taking the campaign for yourself. Even though you can do it and apply it to whatever industry that you're in, okay, whether it be skincare, diet, adult, whatever it is, use the same mindset. But again, check out the 30 Days to 10K program. If you guys are part of that, it's going to be a very, very big help for you guys if you are starting off, just to be able to understand what I do, okay? So again, if you guys have found that useful, right, definitely apply it, and hopefully you guys can have a better mind frame when it comes to your campaigns about what to do. So right now, we're going to go into the next stage of things, but hopefully you guys did find some value from that, and I'm going to see you guys very, very soon.